what up? I am your host, Destiny, and today we are going to be discussing the emotionally exhausted woman. Now, if you're a guy and you're listening to this also applies to you. You can be emotionally exhausted and spiritually drained as well. But most of the time in our culture, what I see is that more often than not, it's the woman that becomes emotionally exhausted. I, at times, become emotionally exhausted if I am not careful at resting, setting boundaries, and just having that time to let go of things, to heal myself, to renew myself, and just to be in God's presence, because also often, especially in our culture, we're just go, 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 do this, do that. If the devil can't turn you bad, he turns you busy, sort of thing. And so many women, the question comes down to, why do so many women get burnt out? Why do so many women get burnt out to the point that they become so emotionally exhausted, they have nothing left to give, and they are just fried, walking around emotionally exhausted zombies? And it feels as if we are at the ends of our ropes, being pulled in all the directions, and we're afraid to say no. Sometimes we start to feel like every day is a bad day. Like you get up, and instead of being like, oh, it's a good day, we're like, it's another day, woohoo, more laundry, more dishes, more kids pulling at me, more college papers to write, more this, more that. And we just become so exhausted that just the thought of tomorrow literally exhausts us. And when you're long past stress and you're on your way to being burnt out, that is the emotionally exhausted woman, that is the emotionally exhausted man. But more often than not, it is women who get emotionally exhausted and burnt out is because we are more emotional creatures. And here are 5 things I'm going to be telling you about the emotionally exhausted woman and how to help yourself. Here are 5 tips. Well, they're not really tips. They're actually good things of advice I want you to take, and I want you to write down, and I want you to actually live out and practice. But these are just 5 things, especially for me, that I have found to help me so much. 1, everything you need to heal is within you. God has filled you. God is in you, like the Holy Spirit. If you are a believer, if you're a newfound believer, the Holy Spirit is within you. God has filled you with His peace. He gives you His peace. He talks to you. He's with you. If you've invited Him in, He's with you. And He calls you to rest, to say no, to find a quiet spot with yourself and Him, and just to quit the busy life and just to quiet your thoughts through rest. Like God is near, especially near to the brokenhearted, near to those who are restless. Just Psalms 34:18 just goes for a good example of that. God is near to the brokenhearted. And if you're brokenhearted, you can be brokenhearted emotionally exhausted. Like that is a form of brokenheartedness, because you just feel so overwhelmed with life, like you're sinking down in the sand, and everything you definitely need, there's a birdie behind me, everything you definitely need is within you. I'm not talking about you can just do it on your own and you got this. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about God has given you His Spirit. If you ask for His peace, if you ask for His rest, He will give it to you. It's not something that, everyone else can have, but you can't attain. That's not what I'm talking about, And with that, I definitely don't want people to get confused with that, because when I say that, it sounds like, oh, you're a God in yourself. No, you're not a God in yourself. Everything you need to heal, God is able to give you, and God has put within you. And one of those things is definitely Shabbat and rest. God gives us this example of 6 days of work, 1 day of rest. What we often see in our lives is we work, and then we're like, okay, I'm going to rest today. And then you're like, oh, you know what? The house, I can clean the house on my day off, or this or that. And next thing you know, it's been all day and you haven't sat still and rested and just gotten alone. You're like, oh, I'm alone. Oh, I should go meet up with a friend. Maybe that rests for you, but you definitely still need alone time. And 2, let go. Whatever you say yes to, you're saying no to something else. And what I mean by that is every time you say yes to something and you put something on your schedule, you're saying no to something else. So if you're saying yes to sports and all these extracurricular activities for your kids, if you're a parent, then you're saying no to family time, to meals together, to having downtime just to spend. If you are a student or a high schooler, or just every time you say yes to your friends, you're saying no to doing something by yourself, discovering new things that you like, trying out new things, just getting to know yourself more and being okay with yourself. Because I feel like a lot of times in our culture, people, have a problem saying no. We have become so much as people pleasers. We are afraid of saying no. We're afraid of being okay by ourselves. Like, that's one of the best conversations all these times. Like, I talk to other college students and whatnot, and I'm just like, oh, hey, when's the last time you spent some time alone with yourself? And they're just like, I don't know, maybe when I go to sleep. Like, it is good, and it's a good habit and skill to acquire and obtain, to be alone by yourself, to learn to be okay by yourself in your thoughts, and just to be able to sit down and process through your thoughts. It's time to say no and quit and withdraw from the responsibilities that you've taken on. And that's what I mean. It's time to literally quit them. And you're probably thinking, oh, but I've already said yes to this or that. Well, maybe that's where you need to go back with something and be like, listen, I know I said I'd be able to do this, but I physically cannot do this, blah, 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 etc., etc. You need to free the space mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, so healing can take place, and maybe you're thinking, well, everything I do is for the good of other people, like I'm really involved in church. The truth is, you can be overly involved in church. We've created this concept and pressure on ourselves, especially in the Christian community, of, oh, you have to help out with every single event, and you have to intern, and you have to do this, and you have to do that, or else you're a bad Christian. You're a bad person. Well, the truth of the fact is, we are not all the same body parts of the church. The church is a body with Christ at its head. We all have different skills and abilities. And B, all body parts need rest. You cannot physically run all day. Your legs need rest. You cannot physically type all day. Your fingers will get cramps. Even eyes need rest. Every body part needs to rest, and so do you. So you can be overly involved in church, and that's where you need to say no to something. No, I cannot help out with that service and stay after for 4 hours because it is family time, or it is my time to rest. It is okay to say no. And you just need to let yourself get to that point and teach yourself, no, it's okay to say no. And I don't have to feel bad about it or try to please somebody of oh, this or that. And a good passage that definitely reminds me of that is Psalms 23. I lie in green pastures and I shall not want. Just truly resting. That whole passage just talks about God as your comfort, you're resting, you're healing by Him, you're being renewed. It's a place of peace. Number 3, grieve your losses. And what I mean by that is you can't go into healing thinking you can keep everything the same. I have tried to do that. Of oh, I can heal, I'm just going to do this or that. But you can't go into healing thinking that you can heal without keeping everything the same. You can't heal in the same place you got sick in. For example, if I'm allergic, I have a dairy allergy, so if I know I'm allergic to dairy, I can't keep eating dairy and ice cream and all that stuff and expecting to heal my body from that. It is not going to work, Or if there's a place that really stresses you out, if you have a really stressful home life, I understand that at times, and sometimes you can't get out of certain things at times. But most of the time, if something is serious enough, and you have the determination, you can get out of it. Or if not, you need to get help to get out of it. And there are situations like that, but most of the time, maybe you're hanging around a friend group and they are really toxic for you. And maybe it's time to start saying no to that so you can start healing, because every time you leave feeling underrated, worthless, defeated, because they just tear you down, they tear down your dreams, they tear down your vision. Those are not people you want to surround yourself with. And maybe it's time to grieve your losses of that. Or maybe you had a habit of doing something, you check your emails all the time. Teach yourself habits to only check them once to twice a day. Get rid of the FOMO, grieve the losses, you're not missing out. And I really feel like there are some things that we can truly cut out of our spiritual and emotional diets. And sorry if the mic's kind of sounding weird, it's really windy today and I think I bumped it. And there are things that we can learn to grow and heal and change from. And all too often we make excuses on why we don't say no or why we can't stop, because it might hurt someone or it could kill them. It's not going to kill them, okay? And if you saying no or removing yourself from a situation because it's unhealthy for you is going to kill them, well, that's something they need to grow on, because you do not physically have that power to kill them unless you're shooting them or actually murdering them, okay? And instead, we play this suicide hero by killing ourselves, which is 10 times worse. I see it a lot in women. I see it a lot in myself at times of like, oh, I really don't like doing that, but it's going to hurt their feelings if I tell them no or I don't do it. But then you end up hurting yourself way more, and you end up just feeling so much worse. And that is not good for anyone. You know, leaky buckets are not good. And you staying in something just because of someone else is no way to live your life. Like, that is a victim caged mindset of a suicide hero, and it's not healthy for you. It's honestly not healthy for them. And you need to stop making excuses. Like, I get so frustrated when I see people continually make excuses for people, and I'm like, you're just teaching them to basically walk all over you. And like, you don't have respect for yourself. You are not giving respect for yourself, and if you don't have respect for yourself, nobody else is going to have respect for you. And they'll be like, oh, they never say no. Like, I can go ask them to do it. Like, you need to have boundaries, and you need to know your boundaries. You know, because you lose the identity of yourself when you don't have boundaries. You know, when your boundaries and your core values don't line up with your actions anymore, you've already become basically an assassin of your identity. And that is not good. Number 4, ask for help. If you are emotionally exhausted, spiritually exhausted, and just burnt out, fried, ask for help. You know, God will give you, and at times, God will give you more than you can handle. You know, that whole saying of, God will never give me anything more than I can handle, like, that's untrue. Like, God's going to give you more than you can handle at times, because if he didn't, A, you would never grow, you would never mature. You know, it's like when you're like good at a game or you're good at a sport or something and you never practice more to try new tricks of the trade, like, you don't grow. You just get in this rut of like doing the same thing, and if you're not growing, you're dying, you know. And 2, if he never gave you anything more than you could handle, you wouldn't need God. Like, that's the whole thing, is we can't do it by ourselves. Like, we need God. So first, ask for help from God, because he's more than willing to help. Like, he is the helper, he's the comforter, he's the teacher, you know. Secondly, ask your peers, ask the women in your life, ask the men in your life. Like, if you're a guy, you know, ask your accountability partners. There are people out there that are willing to help. And if you're already thinking, oh, well, I don't want to be a bother, or I don't want to intrude on anyone, or, you know, have to make somebody go out of their way, how often do you go out of the way for other people? First of all. Second of all, as brothers and sisters in Christ, we are called to help, and I love nothing more than to serve. You know, if that means like, oh, hey, can you take the kids to the park for me? Like, I just need some alone time, you know. Like, there are probably women that would love to do that, and on the same turn, it's the penny and bucket thing. If you pour into them, they pour into you. Then you take out of them of like, hey, could you watch the kids just for a few hours? Or, hey, can you help me with this project? Or, I'm working on this like art piece and I really need some actors or whatever. Like, there are so many different areas that people can help with, you know, that they are willing to help. You just need to ask and get over this fear of, I don't want to be a bother, because you aren't a bother, you know. And so ask for help. Ask for it, ask for it, ask for it, you know. And so much we don't, because we feel like we'd be weak or something. But let me tell you something. You are one beautiful human, you are one beautiful woman, and you deserve support, you deserve encouragement, and a loving assistance on this journey through life. Okay? You deserve assistance. You deserve help. You are not a project to be fixed. You are not worthless. You are not seen as weak. Asking for help actually takes a lot of courage, and if you can do that, I have mad respect for you, because I struggle with that at times, you know. But it's as body of believers that we are called to serve, and I would love to serve you, and I know there are women in your community that love to serve you in the ways that they can. If you're a guy listening to this, there are men out there that would love to serve you. There are friendships to be made through it. Like, ask for help. It's okay. And finally, number 5, be patient. And I say this because I'm not often a very patient person. Like, that's definitely something, a constant virtue God continues to work on with me and through me. But sometimes healing takes time, and it does. When you get a cut, it doesn't automatically just go zoop and heal back up. Nope, it scabs over, it heals, it takes time. And our culture tends to teach us that everything should be done in a snap of the fingers in an instant. And if we don't see results immediately, we should quit. It failed, it didn't work, give up. You know, whether it's with a sport, you can't just go out there if you've never played soccer in your life and then score a goal perfectly, you know. You can't just go out on a basketball court and shoot 3-pointers and make it every time. That takes practice. The same with filming, the same with a YouTube channel, or if you start a blog or that, you're not just gonna see 50,000 subscribers like the first time you post a blog. Like, it's not reasonable. So why do we expect with healing for ourselves that, oh, I didn't heal today, I'm still emotionally exhausted with things, might as well quit, it's pointless, I have better things to do, or I'm too busy to heal. Be patient. Like, I mean that, I say it, I mean it. You know, there's a very fast track to emotional exhaustion, but the path to emotional healing takes time, and it is slow, and it is beautiful. Please don't put off caring for yourself. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Do not put off caring for yourself because you're like, oh, it's okay, I can go another few days. But really, you can't, because you start getting fried, and the people around you can feel it because you start getting edgy. You know, it's not healthy for you. Like, the stress it puts on your body and your brain, like, leaky buckets are not good for anyone, not good for you, not good for the people around you. You know, take time to rest. The dishes can wait a little longer. Those emails can wait to be replied. You don't need to go like your friend's Instagram post as soon as it comes out. You don't need to reply to that Snapchat as soon as they send it. You know, those text messages, these things that we put so much pressure on ourselves that they have to be done right now. Reality, they don't have to be done right now. Yes, there are probably a few things here and there that might have to be done immediately. If you have an essay that you've been putting off and it's due tomorrow, well, that might have to be done. Or if you have a phone call from a job offer or something, like, there are a few things in life that have to be done immediately, but most of this stuff can wait. And so just stop putting this pressure on yourself to get it done right here, right now. Like, that OCD just syndrome that we create with ourselves of, oh, if I don't sweep the floors right now, you know, I'm not gonna go to bed. Like, that's something you need to heal from. And I speak from experience. Like, I was terrible as a child. I still am at times. I'm like, those pencils need to be put away. But the truth of the fact is, care for yourself, settle your heart, and start by sitting still and resting. You know, like I said, the things can honestly wait. You know, everyone has needs. And you might be thinking, well, these people need stuff. Well, you need stuff. You need healing. You need rest. You know, and you're going to be a lot better of a helper to the people around you if you are well rested and well nutritioned and just full. You know, it's like a phone. You know, if you're constantly using your phone, the battery percentage goes down, and you need to go rest from it and charge it so that way it's full again, so that way it's productive again to use that tool. Same thing with you, is you need to rest. You need to recharge yourself so that way you are productive and you can be used for the kingdom of God to glorify and further Him. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is take a nap. And I mean that. And I know a lot in our culture, like, I definitely put this pressure on myself sometimes, like, every day in Bible time, like, when I'm spending time alone with God, you know, like, there are some days, like, I get to that point, I'm just so mentally exhausted. I'm like, I don't feel like I can literally read right now and get, like, nutrients from this. And I will put this pressure on myself, like, I have to read my Bible today, right now, or else I'm going to be a bad Christian. But I've learned to have grace with myself, take a nap and rest, and then go back and read. Or if I can't physically, like, read right now to comprehend it, maybe a podcast based on, like, a book of the Bible or something that's definitely been, like, I've been struggling with, or that will help me. Like, there are different ways to feed yourself, just like there are a bunch of different foods out there to eat. But you do need to constantly be getting the Word, like, as much as you can, like, as a believer, because if you aren't getting the Word for yourself, you aren't feeding yourself. You can be getting fed from other people, but you also need to feed yourself, you know. And I guess to end with this is Psalms 131, and it says, I've cultivated a quiet heart. And I love that because also often everything around us is loud. You know, you got to be the best, do the best, be the loudest, you know. Like as a kid, you know, like if you're in a group of people, like you gotta be the loudest kid there so everyone gets their eyes on you, you know, be like bam in their face. But it says, I've cultivated a quiet heart, you know, a heart that's content, a heart that's rested, a heart that's quiet, you know. And cultivate means to prepare, to develop constant habit, you know. So it says, I've cultivated a quiet heart. That's something that we as believers need to develop, that we need to prepare ourselves and prepare room so that way God can fill it with good things, that we can develop it so that way we are walking with God and that we're just not stressed out by the worries of life and just stressed out by the daily things that we shouldn't be stressed out about. And it's a constant habit, like do everything without complaining or grumbling and rejoice always. You know, like that's the shortest verse in the Bible, and it's a commandment to rejoice always. Like physically as Christians, like, and just as humans, like that is pretty much nearly impossible to rejoice always, you know, and I think God knows that, and that's why he challenges us with it, so that we always strive to become more like him. But if it is a command, I think that there is a way that you can get to that point of rejoicing always with God. You know, you definitely can't do it on your own, but you can do it with God, and I think it starts also with cultivating a quiet heart to renew your mind into rest. Because if you are stressed out and emotionally exhausted, you're probably not rejoicing. If you're rejoicing, it's probably very fake, and a lot of people can see through it. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast and video today. I'm sorry if I hit the mic and it kind of made your audio go or something, and for the wind, if that's kind of playing into it. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. You can follow us on Instagram. You can follow us on podcasts, Spotify. You can, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can click the links down below. I would love to hear from you, so you can comment. Please subscribe. It helps me. It helps you. And yeah, I'll join you guys next time. Thank you so much.